Welcome, everybody. I'm Lisa Daly, and this is a special edition to Authors on the Air. Today, we are going to be celebrating Women's HerStory Month, HerStory, with these amazing women who are on the stage with me today. And I'd like to introduce everybody. I am going to start here with Dharma Kelleher. Dharma, will you tell us all a little about you?
Sure. I write crime thrillers where queer women, primarily transgender women, kick butt. And I've written about, I'm working on my 13th novel currently. So,
Wow. All right.
mhm.
Fantastic. That's
Thank
amazing.
you. Mhm.
Thank you so much for being here today. Laura Drake, we are super excited that you are here with us today. Tell us a little bit about you.
I just finished and turned in my 15th book. I write Western romance and recently have ventured into women's fiction, which I'm absolutely loving. My book, The Sweet Spot, won a Rita for Best First Book in 2014. And my other women's fiction, Amazing Gracie, is due out in a month.
Yeah, wow.
So
well,
excited.
Yay! Congratulations. We are super
you.
excited for that. Thank you so much for being here today, Laura. Jeri Westerson is here. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I like to disappear from the present and go to the past. So I write historical mysteries. I wrote the Crispin Guest medieval noir series, which was finished in 15 books, and currently I write 2 series this year. My Tudor mystery series, The King's Fool Mysteries with Will Summers, as the reluctant sleuth. He's the real court jester to Henry VIII. And I ventured into Victorian era with a Sherlockian pastiche called An Irregular Detective Mystery, and that's coming out in June. Wow. And I am currently writing the second in that series, which would be my 46th book, I believe.
Wait,
I feel like a slacker.
Right, you're one of the women who's inspiring us today. Holy smokes,
well,
right?
I can go then, right?
That is totally amazing. Congratulations, that's great. Tracy Blom is here with us, and I'm super excited about that. Tell us a little bit about you, honey.
Hi, so I am in Columbus, Ohio. I'm a primarily children's author. I've written 36 books, most of which are picture books. I also coach others on how to create their own picture books, and run a podcast called Books, Kids, and Creations, where I get to interview lots of cool people who inspire future generations with their work.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And Colleen Thompson is here. Tell us a little bit about you.
Hi. I started out actually writing historical romance as Gwyneth Atlee. I wrote 7 books like that. But then once I started killing people, I couldn't stop. I changed and went into the world of romantic suspense and romantic thrillers. And my 35th book just came out recently. Wow. And I've written for quite a number of different publishers in the romance genre and suspense genre.
Wow, that is completely amazing. Well, thank you all so much for being here today. I am Lisa Daly. If you guys don't already know me, I'm the author of a number of romantic comedies and some nonfiction writing advice books and dating advice. That's actually how I started my writing career, as a dating expert, which is kind of a weird story. Anyway, I'm super thrilled to be with all of you today and talking about the women who inspired us. And I think that most writers have someone that we feel sort of, right, like gave us that extra push when we needed it, or made us, we read a book and it made us want to be writers. So let's just talk sort of in general before we really get down to kind of the nitty gritty of writing and inspiration. Just overall, who are the women who have inspired you the most and why? So you guys all think about that for a second. And I'm going to call on somebody who's got an answer. I don't want to call on you if you're not ready yet. All right, Laura's got something. So Laura, who What woman inspired
My
you?
mother. She was a stiff upper lip English woman who raised 3 of us brats, which now I look back and don't know how she did it. She did not swear, which was amazing. And I had an alcoholic father. So when he lost jobs, she went to work, never complained. She just did what needed to be done. And I learned my work ethic from her and the fact that I can do anything. I just have to have the energy to do it. And luckily I was blessed with that. So yeah, I owe most things to my mother.
That's great. That's I think that is so. I think so many of us are really inspired by or because of, I guess, our mothers. It kind of depends on the relationship, but yeah, I am right there with you. Who else would like to share about the person who inspired you the most, the woman who inspired you the most? Jeri, I'm calling on you.
Yeah, I was
All
just
right.
going to say. Well, it was actually my mother-in-law, and because she was a mighty lady. She started off being shy. This is what she told us. She was a shy person, but I think if you're a very tall person, you can't be shy very long. I think that you have to step up and you're going to have to say something because people are always going to mention it. But and I am a very short person, so I literally looked up to her. But besides that, she was just a really remarkable person. They adopted her child and they did some fostering and in their family, and she sort of she was the one that brought the entire family together for events, and she taught me what it was to be a person and a better person and a better companion, I think, to my husband. And just generally, and she loved to read. When they built their home up in the mountains, she was sure to have a library built because she wanted books around her. So she was a reader. Unfortunately, she didn't live long enough to see me published because she would have loved that. She would have loved the whole milieu of going to conventions and conferences and book launches and all of that. And she's very inspirational, and she was also all kinds of things that she did. And I'm pretty sure she didn't realize how much she had done. So yeah, this is for Maureen, all of it, and I appreciated all the stuff that she did and encouragement. So
I love that story. Who else has a person they want to talk about? Another story of a woman who inspired you that you'd like to share? Okay, who's got their phone? We got to get that turned off. All right.
Someone wants to talk to you.
I know.
Maybe
right?
you've already won.
I know. I know.
Ring.
So I'm sorry, I missed what you just said. What did you say? Oh, Colleen?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to point out school librarians, because I would say the school librarian was a person that kept feeding my love for books, and always putting new ones in my hands, always feeding that, always, making sure that she would be that pipeline to get me more and more books. And constantly putting new ones in my hands, and I soon outgrew the school library, and led me to the city library in my very small town, led me to the county library, but it was a succession of librarians. And when I was a teenager, I ended up getting a babysitting job for a pair of librarians.
No.
They would bring me home just loads of books. And so I had this pipeline of librarians throughout my young life, which was lovely. My family members weren't really readers, but I
Mhm.
just had this succession of librarians that really helped me out and got me going and got me started and gave me nurtured this dream that I had that maybe I could even write my own books.
I
And I
love
don't think I ever would have dared to dream such a dream without those folks. So librarians are my favorite
And
people.
who would have thought that they'd be all under fire nowadays?
I know,
Oh,
right?
It's
it's
just so disheartening to see
it
It
that.
is.
is. It's heartbreaking because who are those, where are we going to find those people that nurture that next generation of readers who are maybe not getting that at
And,
home? I know
and
I
if you
could
may remember when the Patriot Act started, one of the things that was required of librarians was
Hmm.
to let people know who was checking out what. And so they decided that as soon as you returned the book, it was wiped from the
I
Ah,
record.
just read it, and I just read today that there was a movement afoot in Texas, of course, to make it possible to charge librarians
Yeah.
criminally.
That's
Uh,
insane.
it
it-
is. It's
That's so
ridiculous.
unbelievable.
crazy.
it is
It's
insane.
horrific.
You did, Colleen, you did your library, like your talk about the librarians who inspired you, though, really did a great job of sort of leading us into the next question, which is who are some of the women who helped you to get where you are? And I think librarians for a lot of us are going to be that answer. Dharma, who helped you? Who was the woman who helped you get where you are?
So many, so many. Since we're kind of talking about the issue anyway, because a lot of this legislation targeted towards librarians is really targeted towards the LGBT community
Mm-hmm.
and trans women in
Sure.
particular. And one woman that truly inspired me was a model and an actress whose name is um, Caroline Cossey. And she came out as openly trans in the uh, late 80s, early 90s. She did a spread in a men's magazine. I'm not sure which one. And it was something that I'd been struggling with my whole life, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like a little 20 something. And uh, when I finally saw, that was the only time I'd ever bought a men's magazine because not really my thing.
There's a
Staring
first
at
time
other
for
women.
everything, right?
Yeah, it's like I literally did read it for the article, but it said, okay, this is possible, and that truly set my life in motion. And another woman I want to say that really shaped my author career was Catherine V. Forrest,
Mm-hmm.
who wrote the Kate Delafield mysteries. She just came out with, or is coming out with one, Delafield. And I read her books. This was um, a few years after I came out, and she was one of the few openly lesbian authors writing actual mysteries from a queer women's point of view. Amateur City and Murder at the Nightwood Bar were the
Love
first
that.
books I read, and I realized that I would really love to do this for trans women, and eventually, shortly before my 50th birthday, I did. So
Oh my gosh, that is like amazing. And that's the thing is she probably had no idea when she
I
did that
know,
spread, right? That this
right?
would impact you and what a ripple effect it had
Oh
on your
yeah.
life. Did you ever have the opportunity? I always think it's interesting when you have the opportunity to meet someone. Did
I
you ever
did have a chance to meet her. I was a part of a support group in Atlanta at the time, and we invited her, and she actually did come because she lives in England, or at least she did. And she came with her husband, and I got a chance to meet her. And she's just this. You think being a model, she'd be very outgoing and extrovert. No, she's very quiet, very soft spoken, and everything. Very sweet person. And I did get a chance to thank her because she really did have a wonderful impact on my life.
Oh, I love that. I love that story. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. Laura, how about you? Is there a woman who helped you to get where you are this way professionally?
Many. I believe it takes a village for us to get enough guts to do this kind of thing. But one in particular, when I joined Romance Writers of America, there's a chapter in Southern California, and an older author, she was a Harlequin author for years and years, wrote mysteries, Char Lobb. She wrote as Charlotte Carter. And she belonged to our group and had been a member forever. And she really made a point of fostering aspiring authors. And at that time, I didn't even have guts to call myself aspiring, and she would answer questions endlessly. And she was also, at the age of like 72, she'd written over 100 books. She was a stand-up comedian. She was hysterically funny, had this really droll delivery. And honestly, she made me believe that I could do it. She almost made me believe it. Yeah, she was amazing. She's passed on probably 10 years ago, but she's still in my heart.
I love that. That
That's
is an
wonderful.
awesome story. That is so awesome. I always wonder, like, if we don't, because a lot of times you don't realize what an impact that person has until years later. And so I always want to know, like, did you get to tell them? Did you get to tell? So we'll just make that a standard follow-up. So did you get to tell her at some point during your time together how much she meant to you and
She
how much she
passed
impacted?
before I published the first one. But I know she was watching.
She knows, right? She knows. That's an incredible story. Jeri, how about you?
I think we did me.
Yeah,
I
we
think
got it.
Tracy needs
Tracy, yeah.
Well, we do need Tracy. I was just meant, like, do we have an answer? I was trying to go around and get back on the thing there, but think about the question, specifically a woman who who impacted where you are today. But yes, I definitely want to hear from Tracy. So we'll go to her, and then we can circle back if you'd like.
Oh, but I talked about my mother-in-law. That was the person.
Yeah.
True. All right. Okay, we'll do it. Okay, so Tracy, what is what as far as women who helped you get where you are, not just women inspired, but women who impacted your career, who would you say would be the person who had the most impact?
Well, oddly enough, it's kind of a sad story, but my mom passed away actually 12 years ago yesterday.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And because of her passing, I was like, I really need to journal. I need to write. I need to get these, like, kind of navigate grief in a way.
Sure.
And since my family wasn't raised much with religion, I was like, I'm going to go and maybe try a couple different denominations and see if I can connect to wherever she went. And so because of her passing, I started writing and writing and writing. And essentially, I went to a different church every weekend for a whole year. Wow. And I wrote a memoir. And so that was my first book. And so I published, I think in 2014, but it was essentially my first memoir, first novel. And I feel like she was like the catalyst to that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you for that. How about you, Colleen? You had sort of started this off with librarians. Do you have a specific person in mind as far as what?
Like Laura, I can't. When I really got serious about getting published, I joined the Romance Writers of America. I had been fiddling around with a number of writing groups and entering contests and things like that to get feedback on my writing, which was tremendously helpful to me. And I started doing well with that. But when I went to writing conferences, I noticed that the writers who really seemed to know what they were doing were the romance writers. A lot of romance publishing or romantic fiction gets published. I mean, it's just a huge part of the commercial fiction market. And there were so many really savvy, knowledgeable, and very helpful women writers in romance. And they all seemed so professional. And I started listening to them, and I had never really read romance, but I started getting ideas based on what they were talking about. So I began really reading romance and getting into it, thinking, wow, this is so much more than I ever thought it was. And good
Many
writing.
people have that reaction.
And I had no idea it could be so great. So I was really impressed with it. And a lot of the stories that I wanted to tell, I realized could actually fit into that. So, I mean, there were so many really great folks that I respected out of that. Susan Wiggs, Barbara Dawson-Smith. And I got to know Sharon Sala, who has mentored so many people in the industry. And she was a great help to me when I was first learning. And I remember that when I first got to the point where I started to not only place in contests, but to win contests and get offers of representation and everything, she really gave me a lot of wonderful advice. And she certainly wasn't the only one that did. But, and, mystery authors like J.A. Jance and things that I met at these conferences, they were so friendly, so helpful, so nurturing. Many female authors. I was so surprised to find didn't necessarily see younger authors as competition, but they remembered themselves as they had been coming up. And they tried to picture what had been like for them. And they were just so helpful and so wonderful. And I had the lovely experience of making my first sale while I was at the Houston Writers Conference.
Aww.
And was basically by 350 people who knew what it meant. And when I got the call, and it was just the most wonderful, affirming experience. Even when I had someone who later became one of my best friends come up to me and said, I'm so happy for you, but I hate you right now too. And we became great friends after that. But really the romance community and the authors that I met through there, some of whom were male also, but mostly a whole lot of women and experienced authors. I've met very few people who treated me or have treated other authors as rivals, but mostly people who have helped other people up along the way. And I learned from that experience what kind of author I want to be. I always want to be one of the helpers and not one of the few I've met. And there have been a few that, want to keep other people down or treat other people as rivals. So it's been a great experience. And I really love meeting authors who are collegial and give other folks a hand up and share knowledge, because you aren't going to get that from people in the industry. They're very hush about money and things like that, and what goes into a good agent, what you should look for from an agent, or what questions you should ask editors and things like that. But other authors will tell each other and help.
They will. They definitely will. So when I first started writing books, I did not know another single author. Didn't know an author, and now all my best friends are authors.
Yeah.
And so I just want to go around the circle really fast and talk about is at least one of your best friends an author? So we'll just do a quick fire. Tracy, start with you.
Yes, actually, one of my very best friends is an author, and we both. It's like we're lockstep on our journey. And so when one of us finds out something about some helpful workshop or tip or something, we're like, hey, guess what? I just emailed you something. And it's like a godsend having someone like that in your life that can help lift you up and grow with you.
That's exactly what it's all about. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it brings me to the next question, but we're going to go around really fast. Quick fire. Jeri, bestie author friend or no?
Not bestie, but a lot of friends, and they're always the ones calling you to say, hey, we need someone on a panel. You want to be on that? Yes, yes. And I get to do that too for them. So yes, the community that Colleen talked about, Sisters in Crime, was mine. So
That's excellent.
Yeah, I want to echo that because when I started writing, I didn't have a clue, and someone told me about Sisters in Crime, and I joined, and that was an organization started by Sarah Paretsky, who I have since met and thanked what an influence she's made on my life. But it was at the time that I joined, Bella Maldonado was the president of the local chapter here in Phoenix. And she was a former police captain or something like that. I forget the exact title, but yeah, she was also a big influence for me.
Oh, love that. So, so going back, Colleen, quick, best, do you have an author bestie or no?
A bunch of them.
A bunch.
Yes.
I love that.
I was just sitting here trying to think of what friends I have that aren't authors.
Yeah.
I can think of 2.
Right.
All the others are authors.
It's funny how that shifts over time. The longer you've been in it, the more of your friends are authors.
Yeah.
Well, because your other friends don't want to hear about it.
Like, oh, you got another book out?
They don't.
Here she goes again.
These people in your head are real. They don't get it that they talk to you. They look at you a little strange.
Right. I totally get that. Yeah. So now we talked a little, Tracy had actually started us off on this, but I want to go back and ask her, and then the rest of you, we're going to go around the circle that way this time. What is the best piece of writing advice you've ever gotten from one of these inspiring women?
Well, I would say somebody told me one time to, like, for creative writing, just to sit down and free write. And I was like, well, okay, I guess. And they were like, just do it every single day. Just try, even if it's for 5 minutes, just sit down and just do some free writing or work on something for 5 minutes a day and see what happens. And don't push yourself to keep going if it doesn't feel like it's supposed to keep going. So I always give myself that space to say, look, if it's, don't force it, write for a little bit. And then when you're done writing, move on to something else.
All right. That was good advice. How about you, Jeri? Best piece of advice?
That what you write, it doesn't have to be good at first, because you're going to come back later and rewrite when you edit. So just get it down on the page first, and then move along.
Excellent. Laura, how about you? Best piece of writing / publishing advice?
Mine was Charlotte again. Charlotte Carter. She was retired, of course, and I so envied that. I said, when I retire, can you imagine? I'll have, 8, 10, 12 hours a day to write. And she went, honey, there's no way. And I just knew she was wrong. I'd be able to kick out like 6 books a year, right? Not so much.
Excellent. Love that. Dharma, how about you?
The best writing advice came to me not from an author, but from one of my mentors, a woman by the name of Kay Grosso, who ran kind of an informal women's support group that I was a member of for many years. And she said, she was always telling me, trust the process. I'm like, what is this process you're talking about? What process? My life is in chaos. And, I see, as I've been writing for many years now, and I think to learn to trust my writing process, that my rough drafts, it's okay for them to be rough, They're not shit. They're just rough. They're exactly what they're supposed to be.
Right.
And if my process changes, from one book to another, that's okay too. If I outline something and I get halfway through it and realize the rest of this outline just doesn't work, I can just trust the process and change it up as I need to.
Excellent. Well, and really, right, that advice is mostly about trusting yourself.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Love that. Colleen, how about you? Best piece of advice?
A good friend of mine, a ghostwriter named Johnny Rogers, it said, "You're an orchard, not a factory. Don't run yourself into the
I like that.
Take time to fill the well, and
I like it.
give yourself some breathing space."
I
Definitely.
love that. I love that.
I do too. I tell myself that quite often. Take the break
You're an orchard, not a factory. You're an orchard. I would do.
Absolutely. No, I mean, and sometimes you will need to take a breath. I had to learn that lesson last year. My mom passed away last year, and I really did have to take that to heart. And there were times that I just, had to take time off, take time to listen to myself, and get through it. And where I couldn't just plow through things. There are just times in life you can't. And the writing's there for you when it's there for you. But there are times you have to take care of yourself. And because you're in it for the long haul. You're not in it to write as many books as you can, as fast as you can. And if the quality is not going to be there, you've got to take care of yourself as an organism, or you're not going to last. You'll burn out.
True.
Yep.
So
That's great. That's great advice.
I had to do that last year too. So yeah.
I think a lot of people in the last couple of years have really needed humans in general, but also a lot of writers have really
psychologically, you do have to take care of your health. And I mean, I think that with the advent of self-publishing and the competitiveness of folks looking at, I need to put out a book every 6 weeks or every 2 months or whatever. I'll never be that kind of writer. I'm not a super fast writer. And if I can do 2 books a year, that's pretty good for me. And, sometimes in a really banner year, maybe I'll have 3, but some years it might be a 1-book year. I mean, last year was that kind of year. And that's okay. There are just seasons of your life that you need to lie fallow. And that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So speaking of women who inspire us, we've all talked a lot about women that we know or who've been sort of in our personal orbit who inspired us. But let's talk about those women who inspire us from afar, whether they're alive or dead. What woman that you don't know has been an inspiration to you? Who wants to go first?
I bet Jeri has a bunch because she does all the historical fiction.
They're all dead, so we're safe to talk about.
They don't have to be dead, just someone you don't know.
Well, they are,
but they can be.
Historically speaking, that's the ones I know well. So I would have to say Eleanor of Aquitaine, and you might be familiar with her from The Lion in Winter, if you've ever seen that play or that movie. She was married to Henry II of England. This is in the late 1100s and mid 1100s. And she was a very singular individual for her time, for any time, I think. She was married first to the King of France and decided that she didn't want any more of that and got a divorce from him and married the King of England. And she is the mother of Richard I of Lionheart, of the Lionheart. And unfortunately, King John of Robin Hood fame. So she helped lead an army at one time, and that's a long story, so I won't go into that stuff. but she influenced the whole notion of courtly love. Her daughter had created from poets of the time the Lancelot character in the whole Camelot story.
Wow.
So she's a gal who you don't want to cross, and you would like to sit down and have a little mead with.
That's very nice. That's very nice. I have one thing that I want to do before we go. So I only have time for one more, as far as a person you don't know who inspired you. So who's got a person who they'd like to talk about for that? Anybody?
I wanted to share, speaking of libraries from before, I'm doing some research for a chapter book, and I just went and picked up this book called Midnight in Cairo, The Divas of Egypt's Roaring 20s. And I just started it, but there's all these women in here that I'm like, I've never heard of them, but they influenced theater and they influenced all, the Egypt mania in the 20s. And so I'm really excited to read it and put some of these women in my chapter book.
Oh, I love that. That's so amazing. What a full circle kind of thing. That is super cool. All right, I'm going to put you guys all on the spot here, because anytime you have authors talking about what they do and how they write, you have somebody in the crowd who wants to be an author. And so this is your opportunity to be the one woman who changed somebody's life trajectory. What is your best piece of advice for either in general for life or for a new writer starting out? So I am going to start with Dharma on this one.
Oh, God.
No pressure.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to cheat and go back to trust your process, because it just really, we have a tendency to get so in our head over, it's like, okay, this isn't perfect. I can't. Trust your process. You'll figure it out. Creativity is always messy, so trust your process.
Trust your process. Awesome. Laura, how about you?
I'd like to piggyback on what Dharma said, because when you begin, you don't know what your process is. I have a theory that your brain already knows how you write, but it's not talking. So try everything.
Yes.
Try with the most crazy things you've heard of. Give it a shot. I am anally organized. My books in my library are by author and by title. I mean, I knew I was going to outline. Well, that part of my creative part of the brain gave the other side the finger. I mean, it was not happening. And so, I'm still not comfortable with that. I want to control that, because if you can't control it, you don't know where it's going to go. So just try everything.
Try everything. All right. That's excellent advice. We have time for one more. Who's got it?
Treat it like a job.
Ooh, there you go. Nope, Colleen, that was perfect. Treat it like a job. Very nice. How about you, Jeri? One last chance. You have anything?
Writing is rewriting.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, you guys, this has been so inspiring today. I'm just so grateful to you for sharing
thank you.
all of these amazing
Enjoyed
stories.
I did too.
Thanks for having us.
Ditto. Well, thank you
much for having us.
Thank you guys so much for participating in this. I think that all of you are so amazing, and you are all inspiring your readers and other writers every day. So just go out there.
One last point.
Yes.
Don't give up.
Yes.
You new writers out there, don't give up.
Yes.
There you go.
Is that
Tracy
perfect?
for the win.
That's it.
Keep it on my desk.
It's a t-shirt.
Yes.
Thank you all so much for being here. We'll see you next time.
See you all on the writer's road.
Yes.